All right, hello everyone. My name is Monica Burton. Welcome to another episode of Shrink Chats.
Hi, Monica. This is Annette Reiter here, and we're glad to have you back. And we're going to be talking, all our listeners, we're going to be talking today about change. The only constant is change. And Monica, you've been changing too much lately.
How to embrace change because it's constantly happening. So Annette and I talked about this because, especially with the coronavirus, there's been so many changes. And one of them, and really I got to thinking about this last night, and as you know, but to all of our listeners, right before the pandemic shut down Florida, my office was flooded. And I've been in that office, I think, about 10 years. So it was, in really a matter of a phone call, my practice had to change. And then 2 days later, Florida kind of shut down and the practice had to change even more. So when I was back in the office, finally, after 5 months, my office has been put back together. It's been new carpets, new walls, new paint color that I didn't ask for, but it's really not that bad, folks, so don't worry. Some new furniture, new computers. So anyways, last night when I was unpacking boxes, it got me thinking about how things are similar and different at the same time. And really with change, sometimes, well, most times with change, we don't really get a say. And, in one instance, everything looks a little bit different. So I think, I know it's just an office, but to me, it's like a second home. And, that office and I hold a lot of stories in there. And also it's been a safe place for me at times. So I think it's what I kind of wanted to talk about today is how to get to a place of embracing change. And there are parts that we have to accept, and it's okay to kind of go through this feels really different and I don't like it. And at the same time, if there's some familiarity and similarity to the things that we had to let go of.
Yeah. I want to put out there in case any listeners are thinking this, since Monica and I do live in Florida and work out of Florida, her flood was not due to a hurricane or anything, in case anyone out there in the world is thinking, oh my goodness, that happened too. No, it was a pipe broke or something?
The sprinkler system malfunctioned in the office.
Yes, there you go. So it wasn't that type of flooding, but I do think it's very typical. What happened to all of us during this pandemic shutdown is our lives were going on, things were happening, and then so things were going well, things were going badly, accidents were happening, life was going on, and then we had a pandemic shutdown in the middle of life going on.
Right.
And that's, and we didn't have just small things going on. I mean, you had an office flood, which is a very rare thing to have happen during the time of a pandemic shutdown. I mean, my neighbor had a baby, and that all changed how she was going to go to the hospital. And since she had another child, she already knew, like, oh wow, this is different, this isn't going to happen that way. So we all had lots of changes, and life was going on when this happened, and it was not, there was no say in how we were going to. Most of us had these things happen in our world around us that we didn't have say in either. You didn't have say in whether the sprinkler system malfunctioned.
Right.
So I think that, Monica and I are real people. We have real lives. And then I also feel like, our offices are a very kind of emotionally intimate place. We go there and discuss with people things they don't discuss with a lot of other people, or maybe sometimes anybody else on the planet. And so the spaces are a little different. I did have a 15-year career in marketing before I decided to become a therapist. And I did not have the attachment to that office the way I have an attachment to this office. It's a different type of work. It does feel like we're trying to create a very emotionally safe space for our clients and ourselves to hold hold some tough stuff in and talk about some
Mhm.
difficult things. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. And I think it's, in our offices, we also talk about change and how change is occurring, and to me, this like metaphor, of course, of, I didn't ask, the metaphor of the office, is often it's like this safe place, this comfortable place, and now all of a sudden it's gone. And,
Hmm.
and then so that was happening in my system, my life system. And then in our larger system, the pandemic, I mean, literally 2 days later, it was, oh, like you can't be in a group of 10 or more. And basically you have to isolate yourself. And I was like, what? you know? And so it's
Right.
sometimes in our practice, when we talk about change, we're talking about, a sudden divorce, or a couple has found out that there's infidelity, or there is an actual death in the family, a job change. And so it's like, I kind of sometimes describe it as these little sudden deaths that happen. And we go through this, or at least I know I do, this back and forth of, well, wait, I wasn't ready, like I want my old life back. And
Hmm.
you kind of stay in that, like, well, like I want that place to go,
Hmm.
I want to go back to that place. And it's really hard to look at what's happening in the here and now, because we are kind of so focused on what we just lost.
Right.
And so being able to kind of have this grieving period of like,
Hmm.
or in our other podcast where we talk about grief, mourning first,
Hmm.
and then stepping into our grief, but also just this like pivot, just being able to pivot and look in the present, and and stay in the present allows us to kind of let go of the thing that's changing.
Yeah.
And that's hard, I think, because there's parts of you that you have to let go of too.
Yeah, you're reminding me of a couple of personal stories, and one I think a lot of people can relate to because I've been telling it in my office. My office, it has still been open. I've been able to work from there either by doing telehealth, or sometimes I do in person there too. And I did not have a flood. This didn't happen to all therapists. And but my husband is doing a lot of construction around our house, and I find a lot of clients now that they're home, they're doing a lot of little odd jobs around the house because there's nothing else to do. There's no movies to go to. So, hey, and you're looking at it all day long because you're living at home now. So then you decide to, whatever, do that bathroom addition or take care of a few things around the house. And that's why I'm drinking so much coffee or orange juice today, because I'm in the home right now recording this, and I'm getting a lot of dust in my throat from our current construction that's going on. And that's also changed. Like, I'm sure I want it to look nice and I want it done and I want the final product, but the change process is arduous, and it interferes with all sorts of things, including the dust in my throat. And although that's feels minor compared to some of the things you were just talking about that we see in therapy, it still is, I don't know, like a micro problem of manifestation of change, of having to adjust and shift.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just having a really decent cry, really a quite solid little cry one day when I came home and my husband had broken down the bassinet and we were moving the baby to the crib, and realizing the bassinet days would be over. And the bassinet was like broken down and in a box because it was a family bassinet and someone else was going to have a baby soon. And he was preparing so that we could get it mailed and it would be there, hopefully like a few days before the baby arrived, so that they'd have it when they got home to put up by their baby. And I just was not ready for the bassinet days to be gone. And I thought that my baby will never be in a bassinet again, was very sad. And so
Right.
there's a there's a PBS documentary out there, and we'll link it to this. It's called "The Myth of Closure" by two therapists wrote an article called "The Myth of Closure," And it's kind of this concept of breaking down that perhaps there's not really closure. Perhaps we hold on to things and store them in ways that maybe are good for us to have these memories, like the memories of the bassinet. I don't have any urge to cry about that anymore, but I do now very sweetly because of that pain of it ending.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how much I loved it, how much I enjoyed having the baby in the bassinet and thinking how short this time would be. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe closure isn't even what we're hoping for, but just grieving enough so that you can find a space to embrace how wonderful whatever it was that you had to lose.
Right. Well, that's, with any death, it makes us appreciate life
Right.
and appreciate those, I call them the collection of memories that we create. And those are the things that we don't have to let go of.
No, those are actually, that's what we actually kind of take comfort in. Those are the cozy blankets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I
Well,
think
that's
that's
nice.
part of it is as you're learning to let go and embracing change, your memories don't have to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that help pull you through them. And also look at like the new beginnings, but we have to go through the pain,
Right.
the end. And I kind of like that. Like I always say with grief, our relationship to grief changes over time. But
Mm-hmm.
this notion of maybe we don't have closure, just things change over time and we hold on to those memories.
Yeah. Time and grace heals everything is an old quote that somebody told me once. I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what I try to do when I talk to clients about grief and change is understand that there's going to be an anguish period,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. And that eventually you won't let go of the anguish, but anguish will let go of you. And then that maybe that's where you enter into that stage where what was lost can become a comforting, sweet memory, and even something that isn't even in the memory in the past, but a memory that you carry forward. I know for relationships that I've lost, loved ones, when I got through the anguish, when the anguish finally let go of me, of that beloved person, I had them in my head and in my voice to carry with me daily and to bring into my current conversations because I knew their answer to every question I could possibly ask.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I've thought about change a lot for myself. The hard part is when you get to that anguish stage, and whatever your anguish is, it's different for everybody, is to realize that it will pass and that you will get to the other side of that mountain. But it can be so acutely painful, and it can be gut-wrenching, and losses can really sucker punch you. And all of a sudden you're broken down or screaming or somewhere that you'd never have that little hissy fit. And
Right.
it just feels like somebody's taken over your body. The pain is so acute.
Yeah. I tell people sometimes that are maybe going through a really a difficult breakup that they didn't want or a heartbreak. You got to go through the ugly cry.
Ugh.
I know that when I was going through a big heartbreak in my life, I was running because running was a thing that I did to help me. And something hit me, and I was having the ugly cry on the beach at like 7 in the morning. I was like, oh my God, like, this is it.
Here it is.
Yeah. I mean, I did have a few of those, not always on the beach, but anyway, I think it's allowing yourself to process, and sometimes with our tears, when change is occurring, our tears are a way to process it without us having to think of a thought or a word to, or a sentence to kind of go with the pain that we're feeling.
Mhm.
And, to your point that you were saying is like sometimes, and I find this maybe with heartbreak too, is the person that you go back in time to talk to or that you bring into your present is who you used to be and the lesson that you've learned and how you've changed. Like, this is who I am now. didn't necessarily ask for this, but what have I learned about myself to help me in the present moment? Like the voice, instead of it, like, just like I said, you lose a part of who you used to be in when a sudden death has occurred, whatever that is. And so it's like, what are some of the things that I want to learn about myself to help me walk down this path? Maybe I didn't want to walk down, but now I'm here. And so what part of this journey, am I going on? And sometimes it turns out to be a much better journey than the one you were on.
Right, definitely. Yeah, I think that I love the term ugly cry, that you just have to me, that's a perfect term for the anguish, because it's just so heartbreaking sometimes with what you're losing. And we are all losing, and we've said this repeatedly in other podcasts, across the world, we're all losing this year or so, this 5 months, this, maybe it's going to be 2 years. We don't really know. Things are going to probably return to a new normal at some point, a mask-free normal at some point. But in the meantime, we're all losing this period, and it is affecting us all differently. And we're all experiencing different losses. If you're young, you're experiencing losses. If you're old, you're experiencing, so across your life cycle and your life was going on, it wasn't, and then whatever, was going on is now acutely changed. I know, we talked a little bit in our last episode about how retirement has changed, and how to accept. I mean, you really don't have to accept change, because it's going to happen whether you accept it or not.
Right.
You have to adjust to it and understand it's going forward. There's, which is kind of like, I always say, it's kind of like a car accident. Once it's happened, the car is crunched. Like, that's that. Like, you can't not have that car accident now.
Right.
You have, it's your car's crunched. That's that.
Right. I think it's the change occurred, and then we're in this in between phase, until we get to a point of acceptance or embracing the difference.
Right. What already is. Yeah. Sometimes people talk to us about letting go, and I'm not sure you're ever really letting go of anything. I think things let go of you. The way it was lets go of you. The way things were lets go of you. Like, you're just having to adjust and shift to what is, because it's already gone. You can't hold on to it anymore. The car will never be unaccidented again. It won't be that. The bassinet won't be, the baby can't stay in the bassinet. It has to grow up, so it's just, but letting go in our brain, because our brain wants to artificially think we could hold on to those things.
Right.
And it's trying to talk us into that's what we should be holding on to. And so whenever people say, I'm really trying to let go, and I'm all, it's already over, right? Though, so you're just trying to get your brain to catch up to what is.
Right.
And they go, oh, thanks for saying it that way. You're right. There's nothing to let go of. I'm like, right. It's already done. It's moved on. The world has moved on. We're in a pandemic,
right.
So, and some people embrace change, and the change can be easier to embrace. There's some pain that's really, really hard.
Right.
Right. So.
Well, why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, we can talk about hope and acceptance. And in our break, don't forget to go to our Facebook page, like us on Facebook, on Instagram, and check out our YouTube channel, Shrink Chat.
And leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks. We'll be right back.
Lakeview Health is a leading residential addiction treatment center in Jacksonville, Florida, and a proud sponsor of Shrink's Chat. We are a medically supervised facility specializing in gender-responsive treatment and co-occurring mental health disorders. We empower profound recovery every day. So call us at 813-703-8418 or visit lakeviewhealth.com.
Shrink's Chat is proudly sponsored by St. Petersburg Therapy, providing counseling for individuals, couples, and groups for over 20 years. now offering the convenience of telemed, online meeting for your health and safety. For more information, visit online at stpetersburgtherapy.com.
Monica Burton is a licensed marriage and family therapist based in St. Petersburg, Florida, with over 17 years of experience. Monica offers individual, family, and couples therapy, and during this time of COVID-19 is offering teletherapy. Monica invites you to check out her YouTube channel, where she offers great tips and advice on relationships, parenting, family health, resolving conflict, and coping with stress. Go to YouTube to find Monica Burton LMFT. There are new segments every Thursday. Or check out Monica's website at monicaburtonlmft.com.
What if you could train your brain to think healthier thoughts? Cope Notes uses daily text messages to help you do exactly that. All you need is a cell phone and a brain. To learn more and try it for yourself, visit www.copenotes.com.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. I'm Annette Reiter, and this is Shrinks Chat. And today we are talking about change, and we want the second half to be about hope, acceptance, kind of moving forward.
Yeah.
I was thinking we could start off, Monica, with Glennon Doyle's quote that we read yesterday.
Yes, go ahead and read it.
Yeah, this is a good way to kind of manage change. So here it is, quote, "Keep going. That's all you have to do, ever. You really don't have to be amazing or fierce or beautiful or successful or good. Just keep going, please. Slowly is fine. Crawling is fine. No feeling is final except hope." Glennon Doyle wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
And I take a lot of inspiration in kind of just moving forward, because you have no other choice but to step forward.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, and like hope, even if like right when the change happens, if you have to stand still for a minute, like hope is the thing that helps you restart. To me, even like with the pandemic, like hoping, like, okay, things are gonna start to look different at some point, with the office, the excitement of like, okay, I didn't ask for this, but now I can hope for, the stories that are gonna come in the new office, the collection of memories, or, maybe I'll get a new painting, or, I get some new furniture, it's, again, I know that might sound silly, but it's just this, to me, hope is the thing that gets us going and that helps us continue to move forward.
And kind of change helps us thrive, right? Like it helps us, it's good to have some things that are set and constant, but it's also good to kind of stir things up, because sometimes just a simple thing, moving where you put your coffee or where you put your coffee pot or your morning routine, can really give you a fresh perspective. And that's something that hope can remind you of, that there's a fresh perspective coming. Mm-hmm. If you're willing to open your mind to trying it just slightly different. Maybe you'll want to go back to where it was, but maybe you'll also be like, wow, why didn't I put the coffee pot here before? Mm-hmm. And, I needed to grieve the bassinet.
Right.
But of course I have a young woman, and I would never, as my child now, and she's an adult woman, and I would never want to go back. I don't want to hold on to a childhood for her. I want to hold on to the person in front of me. I want to make room in my arms for the people and the life in front of me. I don't want to be so much holding on to the baggage of the past that I can acknowledge it and love it and accept the baggage of the past, but I can't hold on to it because I want to hold on to it what's currently right in front of me. That makes the most sense to me emotionally, if I can help myself get there.
Right. So, if we keep holding on to the thing that we can't ever go back to, then we also don't get to open ourselves up to new experiences, and creating new memories. And, it's like you were saying, if we keep holding on to our babies and keep seeing them as babies, we don't get to embrace like who they're becoming.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming a young adult, becoming, creating a new life. whether it's they're in elementary school or middle school or high school or young adulthood. It's if we keep holding on to the thing that that we're grieving, then we don't get to see everything else that is now coming into our lives, all the new good stuff, the new beginning.
Right. So, I mean, what we're kind of talking about here from a therapist perspective, there's a way of looking at life, which is what Monica and I studied, systemic therapy, that talks about the life cycle and the stages of the life cycle, and how each stage has its lessons and its goals and its challenges, and then you're supposed to move to, and it's supposed to prepare you to move to the next stage. Like, childhood, it prepares you for young adulthood and launching and possibly forming your own family. And then, you go through the life cycle, and appreciating that this pandemic happened to people in the life cycle at various stages, and they still have to keep moving through the life cycle during a pandemic. The life cycle never gets stopped by wars, by famine, by pandemics, by illnesses. The life cycle still keeps going on. And in fact, I think that's always the most eerie thing for clients when I'm working with them. If they have someone die or cancer is happening, to look out the window and realize the world is going on while they're in this kind of treacherous position and emotionally wrecked position and not feeling good. It's that, but it also can bring hope and inspiration. Like, okay, people live through cancer. Lives go forward. It still happens. So you can have simultaneous grief and movement forward going on. And humans can handle a lot of emotions simultaneously. We don't have to be in one feeling all the time.
Right.
We can be hopeful and sad. It is possible, and that doesn't mean you're crazy.
No.
And from the experts.
Right. We can, there's a kid's book called Double Dip Feelings, and it's meant for kindergarten kids. And this explanation of, it's okay to have two different feelings at the very same time. Brave and scared is one, and they give these really cute little examples of, kids in these situations that are having more than one feeling. And, I think with most kids' books, they're also for adults. But, it's just good reminder of we're too smart to only have one emotion. We have so many at the very same time, and they're all okay. Brave and frightened, hopeful and sad, grief and loss, and
love and hate.
Love and hate, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those can go very closely together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of the time. So, yeah, that's cute. We'll make sure we'll tag that book on the Facebook page too, guys.
I think sometimes when that I'm just thinking of when a sudden death happens, whatever that might be, it's okay to go in that shock state, kind of a numb. Even with the pandemic, life, not only did life stop for you, but life stopped even outside. But to your point, in that we still were living,
mm-hmm.
And with the sudden loss of something, it does feel overwhelming. With that talking about heartbreak, it's oh my God, this feels like there's too many strong, painful emotions. And then at the same time, there are moments when you're living that experience where you find yourself laughing, whether you're watching a funny show on the TV, or if you have kids, your kids are laughing about something and you find yourself laughing with it.
Yeah.
I think those are the moments that you hold on to.
Right.
Moments you catch yourself smiling, and to understand it doesn't take away, but it actually helps you. Those are the things that give you hope. Those are the things that keep helping you move forward.
Yeah, you could just accidentally break something or do something goofy or trip over something, and you're laughing and you're in the middle of this The other thought I have is too, sometimes when, Barbara Brody and I wrote a book on launching, and this is about helping parents get their kids launched, right? Go through the stage of launching. So it's like Parenting to College and Beyond, I think is the name of the book, years ago. And we speak a lot to that. And sometimes the loss you're going through is joyous, right? It's not necessarily super sad or super grieving, but it is an end. Like we won't be going back there. Like a high school graduation is a joyous loss. You'll never be in high school again. And that's great. That's what you've been working hard for. You'll never be in that level of education again. You are through your primary education, done, period, in America. That's the end of it. Anything else is extra. And your parents' dream, right? And so, sometimes when kids are going off to college, parents are having a hard time letting go, but they're just letting go of what was. And they also don't know what will become. Like, that's also the scary thing. You're not sure what the relationship with this kid is going to be anymore. Because they haven't yet shifted enough into their young adulthood to know what's coming. And so that's kind of scary. So it's not just like anguish, and it's like more of a fear-based feeling that people are having. And it's the one they wanted, right? Like they wanted to take their kid going off to college. Who doesn't, most Americans want that. But still, it's feeling like too much change and a letting go. And when what you're trying to embrace, you don't have a real concrete idea of what it will look like, or that kid never calls you from college. That's often what it looks like. That's like,
yeah.
Right.
I think another example of that is when a couple decides to have a baby. And it says, like Dr. Gottman talks about this transition to parenthood. And oftentimes a couple needs to mourn the loss of their old relationship and step into parenthood. And parenthood is, if a couple is choosing to have a baby, it's like, it's so exciting and they're so happy. But it's also like, you don't really know until that baby comes. Like,
right. That baby has its own agenda. Trust me.
Right. Right.
You're going to think you're going to mold it, but you won't.
Yeah.
It'll be right. The baby's going to teach you a little bit about life. You just don't know that yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So
sure.
Then if you're in that phase, get the book Baby Makes Three by Dr. Gottman, but he talks a lot about how to still, nurture your relationship and improve it while also walking into that parenthood. So, an ending and also a beginning.
Mm-hmm. And it's a beginning that you don't know. Right. You don't know what it's going to look like. So you are waiting to see, but you won't be flying to San Francisco for a weekend dinner anymore. No. Yeah. Those will be the good old days. Those actually became the good old days after 9/11 too. That was actually, I'm from Southern California originally, and that was actually a pretty decent date. If you would hop on a plane on Friday, get a hotel for Friday and Saturday in San Francisco, have dinner. I even flew up there for just the night for dinner. But, now with all the wait and getting to the airport prepped and security, I don't think anybody does that anymore unless they have private planes. No, I think you have to have private planes to do that. That's not me. Not yet. Someday.
Right.
Yeah, so embracing change, that's good too. And unknown, like where it's going is not really clearly known yet.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So there's a scary fear.
Mm-hmm. And I think we should just briefly talk about a big change that's coming, at least right now. And it's kids are starting to go back to school in America. And with the pandemic, we're trying to figure out like what's the best course of action. And so, we're going to talk about this on another episode, but I just wanted to talk about how do we embrace change when, when there's a lot of fear behind it too. Mm. And, and how do we have hope in the midst? So I just want to say it's like, change is happening even with school. And if you're choosing to go back to school, it's going to look different, just like if you're going to do virtual school. It's going to look different, or homeschool. It's going to be different. So I think, we're kind of walking into another shift in this pandemic.
Yes, I think for me, Mon, I think I would just add that the the whole concept of hope for me as a person in this world with other people is compassion.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Exercising the act of compassion is not just a gift to them, it's a huge gift to me. No matter what they're saying, no matter what fear, no matter what anger, no matter what anguish I have about what they're saying, I'm trying to put compassion first. So when I think of the bus of emotions, and I'm the bus driver of my life, I'm my anger, my fear, all that stuff, I want to try to get those feelings back in the back of the bus. And I want the person right in the seat behind me to be whispering in my ear, be compassion first.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're being compassionate to this person.
Mm-hmm.
Try to listen first and hear them, and rather than tell them or get like, don't just be your feelings first, Annette. Try to understand. And we were sharing a quote the other day, both you and I did, on our Facebook pages, our professional Facebook pages, and I think we may have put it on Shrinks Chat. If not, we will, about like just no matter what they're doing with school, just say, man, that must have been a tough decision you had to work through. I'm glad you found something that will work for you and your family. Like, just be supportive first rather than judgmental first. And
Well,
that's how.
Yeah, absolutely. Brene Brown says, imagine that people are showing up doing their best. She talks about boundaries and compassion and being, generous. And, she says, if you kind of show up and imagine that that person is doing their best, she says the life you change is your own because you're showing up with compassion. And their best might not be right for you, but it doesn't mean it's bad or that they're, it helps you show up in more compassion and more wholeheartedly, just like what you're saying.
And this topic about, and this is why we're going to do a whole show on it, hopefully the week after this one airs, but if not, it'll be the week right after that. This topic is so heartbreaking for parents. I am seeing parents just in so much anguish, in couples, whether they're divorce parenting or and co-parenting well, or maybe parallel parenting, or even in their own house, trying to figure out this school. And I think that if we just first appreciate, I love Brene Brown, what she said, thank you for remembering that. I just think we just appreciate that this is hard on families, and they're doing their best. Everybody is parenting out of love and care and concern for their child. So if you could kind of stay out of your own judgment about what would be the right way. Mm-hmm. I think it's hard too, if you get in your head that whatever they're about to do is going to kill their kid, you may feel justified to say something. So maybe take a few steps back from that and try to just listen in, and try not to get too, I always call that, don't let the righteous brain take over. Mm-hmm. Because, my righteous brain wants to win, and it can pretty much use legalese and Socratic method on any topic.
Well, I think it's, so embracing change, also a reminder to show up with compassion and lack of judgment, because that helps you get to a place of accepting change or embracing it. If you show up like trying to judge or say my way is the right way, you are also not accepting change. You're trying to stay stuck in your position.
Yeah. So I can't thank you for bringing up this subject today, Monica. This was a good one for us to talk about. I hope it was helpful for all of our listeners. We're all going through a lot of change. We
are. So give yourself a hug. You got this. Hang on to hope. And, just small steps, guys. One foot in front of the other.
Yeah. We'll see you next time here on Shrinks Chat. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're out there. YouTube.
All right. Take care, guys.